Hi everybody, Ariana Anderson here. I'm a traditional naturopath here at Anderson Family Chiropractic and Naturopathic Care in Waterville, Ohio. And I'm going to talk a little bit today about allergies and asthma, where some of the root problems are and how we can naturally support our body's ability to deal with allergies and asthma. So I'm going to share my screen really quickly. Okay, so here we go. I'll move my little head here, make me a little bit bigger. Hello. All right. So these are some of the things you'd probably be familiar with in regards to what we're about to deal with spring here coming. So people that deal with allergies, histamine responses, bronchitis, asthma, sinusitis, watery and itchy eyes, nose, throat, hypersensitivity, and rashes. So any and all of these things people can deal with as we move into the phase of flowering plants and pollen. And so there are definitely ways that we can support that. But I know a lot of people, deal with this and have used drugs to manage the symptoms, but there's really a lot of things you can do to help support your body's ability to deal with what's actually the main problems of why this is occurring. So what triggers it? So an allergic response is triggered by the immune system when it's not able to handle a foreign protein introduced to the bloodstream. It could be a seasonal allergy or a food sensitivity. Seasonal allergies are considered an Ig, immunoglobulin E response. And in that case, those responses are a little bit more immediate. That's where, where we're talking about some of these itchy eyes and throat and whatnot. The release of excess histamine is due to the body's defense against antigens. And they're produced by the body. They attack the antigen and result is a histamine response. And it is a natural response. And so it should not be suppressed, but rather supported so that it can happen and do what it's trying to do more efficiently, so that we don't have the unwanted symptoms of itching eyes and runny nose and whatnot. And really, it's that histamine. It's the histamine response that is responsible for most of the symptoms, but the histamine response is actually occurring naturally for a reason. But sometimes your body is having a hard time clearing the histamine from your system. And that really has a lot to do with the liver, and we'll talk about that in a minute. So the inflammatory cascade, and we've heard a little bit more about this in the last year with more doctors talking about, cytokine storms and whatnot. But so let's just talk about how the inflammatory cascade in general works. So tissue is damaged, could be from an allergen, bacteria, foreign material, and that will elicit an histamine response. Macrophages, which are just part of your immune process, those are created, they go around and they gobble up pathogens. And that process will trigger the release of cytokines. Cytokines cause vasodilation and increased blood flow to the area. So it's bringing more blood so that for healing purposes, but that will also result in redness and heat. Right. So there's a reason for that, though. There's a reason for the inflammation. Your body's trying to pull more blood flow to the area for healing. And so cytokines trigger an influx of phagocytic cells, and these will cause fluid accumulation, which is where you get the swelling and the pain, right? So, but all of that is being done on purpose. So again, we don't want to stop that process. We want to help it make it more efficient so that it can complete what it's trying to do more efficiently. So the root causes of the allergic reactions, or at least the symptoms that we're facing when we have one, is congested liver, biliary system, stressed and weak adrenal glands. That's what those little dudes are. Because your adrenal glands are your stress response glands, right? So if we don't treat them well in this climate culture that we live in, they're going to get burned out. I mean, so there's a lot of things that you can do to help support your adrenal glands. And then systemic inflammation. So if we have inflammation in multiple systems of our body, that puts a big strain on our immune system in general. So it's like there's fires everywhere. So there's a lot to be done in regards to just finding ways to reduce inflammation, such as like eliminating sugar and starch from the diet that are processed, right? There are some good, healthy starches, whole food starches, but you know what I'm talking about. I'm talking about like chips and those types of things. Those things, when you have those in your diet on a regular basis, they're full of processed starch and sugar, and or like in the case of chips, a lot of just table salt. Like that stuff, it doesn't lead to health in the body. It leads to more inflammation in the body. So that's, there's a million other things that we can do, but that's just one of the first things. Just cutting out sugar and starchy processed foods, you can see an amazing improvement in people's health. Okay, so allergy management. So the fever response, let's talk about that for a second. So the immune system response, it serves to intensify the action of interferon. It inhibits bacterial growth, and it supports the repair of damaged tissue. So a lot of times when we have a fever, people are trying to get rid of the fever. The problem is the fever is actually being invoked by your immune system for a reason. So I think that it's a better idea of trying to figure out why the fever is occurring. And it could be for a variety of different reasons, not just to kill microbes. I have always kind of thought of that, right? The fever's there to, kill critters, right? And I think that can be so, but there's other things. For instance, I had seen some studies and doctors commenting on when you have a fever, that has the ability of being able to pull calcium from your bones and bring it into the bloodstream for the immune response. And that's interesting. I've done this, with my children using a really bioavailable form of calcium that when they've had a fever, which they don't get them very often, but when they do, I'll give them calcium, a plant-based calcium that is very bioavailable, very easy to get into the bloodstream and increase serum calcium. The fever goes away. So I think there's a variety of reasons that you can have a fever, but one of them can be that your immune system needs a lot of calcium for that initial attack. And so if you don't have enough, your body might be using a fever to pull some calcium from the bones for that response, which obviously we would prefer not to do. So in that case, if we can give, our loved ones a good whole food type of a calcium that's easy to to digest and increase serum calcium, that might be one thing that can help them be able to facilitate that immune response more efficiently and not take calcium from your bones. So anyway, just a little tidbit you guys can take with you that, we've used in the Anderson home, and it's been helpful. So the inflammatory response, the objective of this is to provide an immediate response to keep the pathogens at bay while the immune system responds accordingly. And it's very sophisticated and complex, and it goes in and there's a lot of pro-inflammatory immune kind of like warriors that get in there and just, make havoc and kill things. And then there's a very anti-inflammatory process that comes in from the immune system to kind of clean everything up. And so, that beginning phase is inflammatory. So you don't want to like suppress that. You want to support it and make it more efficient. So allergy management. So a strong immune system should be capable of differentiating a hostile foreign body, such as bacteria and viruses, from a non-hostile foreign body, such as pollen, animal dander, and dust. Your body should be able to filter the histamine that it makes through the liver and then eliminate it from the body, therefore decreasing the allergic response. And I have seen this is true. So when the liver is supported properly, people don't have those symptoms anymore. It's not that those things aren't occurring, they're still happening in the body, but it's not causing an overflow reaction where your body can't get rid of the histamine and you start to have those unwanted symptoms. So, what do we have to offer, from modern medicine? Really, it's just suppressive therapy. So as I had said, I don't think it's a good strategy to suppress those symptoms. Obviously, there are some situations where there's some life-threatening things that are occurring, and you're going to have to use those at least for a period of time to help reduce those because they can be very life-threatening. So those are more of an exception. I'm talking about those folks that are just dealing with the runny nose and the itchy eyes and the rashes and things like that, where it's not a life-threatening situation. You don't want to suppress that. You want to support its ability to kind of go through its cycle efficiently. You don't want to stop it. So what are some of the drugs typically used to treat allergies? Corticosteroids, those are anti-inflammatory. They usually have short-term results, but they can unfortunately impact your adrenal function and cause muscle weakness in the long term. They also contribute to heart disease and osteoporosis. And so there's a little reference down here, a potential cardiac toxicity of H1 antihistamines was, that's a study that was in Clinical Allergy and Immunology in 2001. So sometimes, again, if you're having a reaction that's so bad, sometimes these things are needed for emergency care, right? But they really actually do cause some long-term unwanted effects, including heart disease. So you got to kind of weigh the risks and the benefits and look at those clinical studies to see, what might be, what some of the unwanted symptoms that you might be facing when taking an over-the-counter medication on a long-term basis. An antihistamine, it will temporarily relieve the symptoms of seasonal allergies. It blocks the histamine, the receptors, which initially decrease the symptoms, but unfortunately, long-term, this can actually also cause stress on the heart, can cause liver disease and electrolyte disturbance. So, and that's also in that reference down there. So again, in an emergency situation, it might be helpful, but as a long-term, strategy, I don't think it's a good one because it will cause other systems to have some trouble as well. Decongestants. So these drugs relieve nasal and sinus congestion temporarily. Long-term use, though, can cause restlessness, headaches, drowsiness, anxiety, and trouble breathing. So again, these, sort of the modern remedies, a lot of times people just haven't done a lot of research on what their symptoms and side effects are. When you suppress something, when you suppress a process in the body, biochemically, there's typically some type of, it's like a price you pay. Like, it's like you get this little cheat, right? It's going to help you, but then you kind of have to pay a long-term price because that process was actually initiated by your body and there was a reason for it. I think a better strategy is to try and uncover why this is happening and then support that. So again, glucocorticoids override immune system to reduce histamine production. They don't really afford any immune support, and they really do have a lot of toxic effects. These are just some of them. So this is the insert on Claritin. So these are just some of the side effects that are listed. Headache, fatigue, dry mouth, thirst, dry nose, hoarseness, nervousness, rapid or pounding heartbeat, unusual weakness, stomach pain, dizziness, diarrhea, wheezing, increased physical activity. Some of the more serious allergic reactions can be rash, itching, swelling, severe dizziness, trouble breathing, etc. And there are other effects that are not listed here, but that's just 21 of them. So again, when you stop something in your body from happening that is supposed to happen, there's typically going to be some type of price that you'll pay later. All right, so liver insufficiency and allergies. So allergies are often the result of an overloaded toxic state within the liver. and I found this to be the case clinically. When you support the liver, over time, the allergy symptoms start to dissipate. The liver is your primary organ for cleansing and detoxification. It performs over 500 functions a day. It really is an amazing organ. It does many, many things. But what happens when the liver has more toxins than it can actually handle? Well, it stores them because it can't get rid of them. And so it also produces additional histamines to protect itself. If an allergen is present, the brain will send out a few more histamines. I think there's an invader. The liver responds and releases too many, resulting in allergic response such as hives, asthma, sneezing, runny nose, etc. So how do you support the liver? So a couple things that you can do just naturally in your diet. These foods are incredibly important to support your liver and your biliary system, which is your gallbladder. You know, the biliary system is actually your bile production that happens in the liver and the gallbladder. But apples are great. They have certain compounds that help to smooth out that bile that's produced in the liver, make it nice and smooth instead of thick. Beets, same thing. Carrot, garlic, cruciferous vegetables such as broccoli, cabbage, kale, Brussels sprouts. Those have sulfur compounds that are needed for phase 2 liver detoxification. So you can just support your liver just by adding a couple of these in every day to your diet. Okay, so some of the natural things that we use in the office that have been really successful. Antoinex. So Japanese researchers found that a fat in beef liver they called yakriton acts as a liver detoxification hormone. So its physiological effects seem to consist of causing more blood flow through the liver. So essentially it has a decongestant effect, even though that's not what it is, right? So it's not like, you know, a decongestant that you would take over the counter. It's more like a liver sort of an enzyme, but it does help to decongest that liver and helps it make it more efficient. And that means that it is supporting detoxification of excess histamine, as well as detoxification of excess sex and thyroid hormones and drug toxicity, because those things are actually eliminated, like excess and used hormones. Those are actually, you get rid of them through the liver. So, you know, the liver does a lot. So basically this particular natural substance has been able to help a lot of the people that come here support detoxification of an overloaded liver. I would be remiss if I did not talk about Spanish black radish. There's so many people that enjoy the effects of Spanish black radish in their life. It is literally just that. This is a concentrated food pellet of Spanish black radish. You could grow them. They're huge. They're like beet size, if not bigger, black radishes. But you know, nobody seems to be able to grow them around here. I think if we could just grow these, everybody would be so much healthier if they ate these every day. But it is a rich source of B vitamin complex, the whole food B vitamin complex. It has some zinc and phosphorus. It works as an effective blood purifier, and it eliminates all sorts of toxins as well as waste materials from our body. Found that it really actually is very supportive of the lymphatic system and has an effect of decongesting those pathways. And it helps facilitate the flow of bile and keeps your liver healthy. So we use a lot of Spanish black radish on programs here at the office. Dandelion root extract. Most people are surprised at all of the medicinal benefits of dandelion root extract, but records of dandelion use in herbal medicines go back as far as the 10th century. It's been used to improve bladder and urinary tract health, as well as support the liver. The dandelion has also been used to treat hepatitis, gallstones, and jaundice in the past. A study of mice found that dandelion root extract helped to heal alcohol-related liver damage and cleanse the subject's blood of toxins. So dandelion root extract is incredibly beneficial to the liver. And, you know, it's just from dandelions, that's it. Now, yes, you can make your own extract. My mom's an herbalist, and so she does that, but you got to make sure you get it from a non-treated source, right? So an organic, non-treated dandelion roots. you know, because a lot of dandelions are, you know, grow around here, but they're in treated soil, and you don't necessarily want that. So how do adrenals play a role in allergies? So allergic reactions typically have an adrenal component. Most allergies involve the release of histamine and other pro-inflammatory sources. And cortisol, which is the main adrenal hormone produced by the adrenal glands, is a strong anti-inflammatory. So basically, it helps reduce inflammation. The amount of cortisol circulating the blood is a key factor to controlling the level of inflammatory reactions in the body. You've went in, if you've had a really bad allergic reaction and you can't get it controlled, they're going to go in and they're going to give you a corticosteroid, and so they're going to inject it. But really, that should be being handled by your own adrenal glands. So a lot of times, if that's occurring and you can't get rid of the rash, sometimes it's because there's stress on the adrenal glands. So symptoms of depleted adrenals, being constantly tired, need for extra sleep, inability to cope with stress, reduced libido, low back pain, sighing, yawning, recurrent infections, irritability, craving of sweets and salty foods, especially salty foods, and just irrational anxiety. Those are all symptoms that there might be stress on those adrenal glands. So a lot of times, this is a whole food multivitamin that we use with a lot of programs called Adrenal. It's been used for all of these different conditions that are listed over time. And basically, it's just got all the nutrients that are needed for the adrenal glands in a whole food, pellet, basically. You'll hear a lot of me saying things like whole food pellet. That's standard process. The majority of what's in them comes from actual food. So the nutrients and their supplements are not made in a lab, but rather come from actual food sources. And so we think that that is the best way to bring in something long-term, a nutrient source. It needs to be from your food, or if it's a supplement, the supplement needs to be made from food. And so that's one of the reasons why we use standard process products. Probably 80% of our programs, 80 to 90% is standard process. But Adrenal is a great multivitamin for the adrenal glands. So long-term allergy management. So really, we want to reduce the overall response to allergens, while we want to add the body's reduction of the toxic and antigenic load. We want to improve clearing toxins from the body, which is mainly the liver. And we want to strengthen the overall constitution of the body, or the tone, like, the tone of the liver, the tone of the adrenals, like the tissue strength. So factors that contribute to overall allergenic and toxic load: diet. So you can't, you just can't get away from it. I know it's tough. I mean, this is probably one of the biggest things dealing, people clinically, is getting them to change their diet. I would say that, during that, as you do this on your own, just, give yourself a lot of grace and look for things that you can do, and just do course corrections along the way. So set your sights on what the kind of health that you'd like to have and the kind of diet you'd like to have. And then just give yourself a lot of grace getting better at your diet. Just because most of what we have been eating in our culture, we have a taste for, like fast food, and that is really not good for us. And so we have to be really creative to find whole food options, and sort of train our palate to enjoy fresh vegetables and things like that, because we don't grow up with them. So be patient with yourself as you move through trying to make those adjustments. But you need to make sure that every time that you eat, you're going to have a healthy protein, preferably a vegetable. Keep your carbs under 150 grams if you do fruit, and some type of healthy fat. So like every time you eat, you should have those three components: healthy protein, a vegetable, and some type of healthy fat. And like on here, I listed coconut, olive oil, avocado. I think it's best to have a variety of different healthy fats in your diet. They all have different constituents that assist in your body's processes. And so I think it's best to have a variety, but also look for hidden food allergies and sensitivities. So Wheat, dairy, soy, and corn are probably the biggest that cause inflammation in the gut and therefore throughout the body. So those things, if you're having allergic reactions, you probably would do best to avoid them or eliminate some of them. I cannot eat wheat and corn. I just don't eat them at all. And I'm careful with dairy, and I don't eat soy either. So those are just things that, like I said, you do small course corrections. I started with wheat, and then I eliminated corn. Soy, I didn't really eat much anyway because of the phytoestrogens in there. And then dairy, I had to cut out for a little while, but then I was able to bring some of it in. I just get high quality dairy. So anyway, those things really can cause a lot of inflammation in the gut, even for people that don't have, you know, like allergic reactions to foods. They can get inflammatory reactions to certain foods if they're having a hard time digesting them. So those would be probably the first things that I would start kind of eliminating to help support your body so that it doesn't have to deal with that kind of inflammation too. And then also environmental toxins, chemicals and heavy metals. Unfortunately, they're literally everywhere, but we can make efforts to reduce in our work environment, our home environment, you know, so at least reduce that chemical load. You know, there's nothing we can do that they spray Roundup everywhere. You know, your neighbors might, that stuff, glyphosate's horrible. It's a horrible poison. But you can't do anything about that, right? Other than support your liver and support your lymphatic system so that you know, your body's able to more efficiently get rid of those things that are just in our environment all the time. And stress and sleep. You know, these are probably two of the biggest factors. If these things can get under control, people just see unbelievable leaps in their health, being able to reduce stress or our ability to deal with the stress, increasing that, and or getting better sleep. There's so much that happens to heal and restore function while you're sleeping. You know, so those are probably two of the biggest things. This is just a quick little thing I saw. These are just things that you can do on your own naturally, and some of the reasons why. Obviously, you need to drink a lot of need to drink a lot of water. So half your weight in ounces is kind of the rule of thumb. And so I personally think you can count in herbal teas and things like that. You just don't, you know, you can't really count in things that have like a lot of caffeine and whatnot, because that's kind of dehydrating. So, you know, water, your liver needs it, all your cells need it. We just need to bring more in. Onions and garlic. Interesting, you might not know, but they have quercetin in it. Quercetin has been recently in the news every now and again, talking about, because it's a zinc ionophore, it helps facilitate zinc into the cell. And then flax seeds, fish and walnuts for omega-3s. There are certain teas that can be really helpful. You can get dandelion root tea too, if you like to drink teas. Eat more fruits. They have vitamin C, very anti-inflammatory. And then rosemary, if you like the flavor of that herb, it actually has shown to minimize allergic reactions. So, so when it comes to, you know, our practice and how we support people. So if you were to have, so say you have asthma and allergy symptoms, the more often and severe the symptoms, the more stress is going to be on your organs, which is going to make them use up more vitamins and minerals, which is going to lead to a little bit of nutritional deficiency. And let's say this is when you're very young, maybe it's, you know, 3%. So you only have 97%, you know, function of your organs, right? Because you need vitamins and minerals to fuel your organs. But you know, say when you're little, it's only 97%. But that means you have a decreased ability to absorb, digest, and utilize vitamins and minerals by 3%, right? So we're going to have a little more asthma and allergies. And then over the years, we're going to have more severe symptoms. We're going to use up more vitamins. We're going to have a little bit more of a nutritional deficiency. And then maybe it goes down to like, you know, however long, 10 years later, it's down to like 80%. And 10 years later, it's down to 60%. So you can see how over time, it's usually not an overnight thing, right? This is where over years and decades, these systems have not been supported. There's been a lot of stress and not enough nutrition to help support their function. And so over time, we start to have decreased organ function. And then we start to have symptoms. And those are what I like to consider dashboard lights. That's the big dashboard light saying, whoa, 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 folks, we got a problem. It doesn't mean that the problem just started then. It just means that's when the dashboard light's coming on. So when you start to have the runny nose and itchy eyes and the rashes and things like that, that means that this has been an issue for a while. You're just starting to see it externally now. So it does take some time to, you know, sort of bring that back the other way, right? So how do we help in the office? We help support nutrient deficiencies and organ dysfunction by, because every system imbalance, really there is one or both of those things. And so what we do is we try to, we're looking for a way to be able to halt that vicious cycle to prevent further damage, right? So our mission is to support and enable the body to stabilize and improve. So how do we do that? We find out what specific vitamin or mineral deficiency that you have, and then we find exactly what organs are already being affected, and then we fix and handle them once and for all. So if you're interested in learning a little bit more about my modality, which is nutrition response testing, you can actually go out. I will put a video link in the comments of this YouTube video, but you can check out our little demo of nutrition response testing. And then if you're interested, you can email our office for a consultation. There's our phone number and our email address. And so we are in Waterville, Ohio, again. And so, you know, if that's something of interest to you, please let us know. And thanks again for stopping out to learn a little bit more about your health and wellness. And I hope you have a great day.